It's midway through October and I'm just now getting around to this video, but who's really surprised? It's me, your host. My name is Megan, and here are the 4 books I read in September. Alrighty, stats as always. I got my handy dandy sticky note here. We had 4 books, 1,111 pages, 3 new authors, and 1 author I've previously read from before. We had 2 physically read and 2 done through audiobook. 2 of them were series, 2 of them were standalone. And then we had 1 dark romance, 1 poetry, 1 science fiction, and 1 psychological thriller. First up, we got Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges. This is a dark romance. This is a trope with a stalker love romance where this guy becomes obsessed with this girl, and it is their love story. This book definitely had a bit more plot involved, which is nice when you're in a dark romance. Sometimes, at least to me, it doesn't always matter that there's this big plot line. Like you're coming to these books for the spice and the romance of it. But when there is a plot, it is a little bit nicer. The writing isn't perfect, but I definitely think it was fine. I didn't feel like I was cringing at dialogue or like being bored with what was going on in the story. The only thing about the plot is the male main character, Hayden, was just a little bit, I don't want to say too violent, because I don't have anything against the violent acts that he was doing to protect the girl, but the acts that he did that didn't really make sense. Like, for instance, in one of the scenes, some guy at a bar touched the girl, the main character girl, Callista. He touched her hair, and then our male main character, Hayden, goes and does this huge violent act against him for just touching her hair. And I'm like, I don't care that there was violence and obsessiveness of no one touches my girl, but make that guy at the bar do something more than just touch her hair. Come on, like, there's so much more you could have done in that scene that would have made those violent acts feel a little bit more justified. Overall, it was still a good time. We still wanted them to be together in the end, so I also felt like there wasn't as much of an insta love, insta obsession. It was a bit more slow burn. Like, yes, he got obsessed pretty quick, but it was a slow burn until he actually started acting on those obsessive tendencies, and I felt like that made the spice better because it wasn't this, or it made you start to get connected to the characters. This was definitely a great fast-paced story. I read it in 2 days. It's not very big. It does have a second one, Now You're Mine, and this one's even shorter than the first one. This one just came out I think last week, so I'm very excited to keep going with this. Overall, very entertaining time. I gave this 4 stars. If you're considering reading this one, then I think you would like this if you've read this. Or if maybe you didn't like this one for certain reasons, kind of the craziness that goes along with this story and maybe the non-consent part of this story. If you didn't really like those aspects of this, you would like this one. Next up in September, I read Beautiful Mistakes by R.J. Avenira. This is a poetry collection. It is super short, barely over 120 pages. This is really just a palate cleanser for me. September was super busy. I was gone for pretty much 3 weeks, and I traveled to go visit my sister and her husband. They just had a baby, and so I was helping them out with that, so I just had this kind of going in the background as, something I could pick up and put down. I gave this 4 stars. Here's all my tabs, if you could see. This one is about heartbreak, love, healing, hope, mistakes, and I thought it was great. I mean, for how short it was, I didn't think it was the best poetry I've ever read, but I did enjoy it. It was entertaining, it got its point across, and I'm glad I read it. Next up, we got The Loop by Ben Oliver. This is a science fiction dystopian world. We follow our main character, Luca, who is trapped in this prison called The Loop. And it's his journey trying to get out of this prison. The prison is run by the government and their AI system, and weird things start to go on. This book takes such an unexpected path. I did not see a lot of stuff coming. And even though this book is technically young adult, I don't feel like it was immature or childish. There was violence, death, lots of crazy topics that got hit on in this book. So that definitely really surprised me, and I was really thankful for. If you missed the older dystopian worlds such as The Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, Warcross, if you miss those dystopian worlds, you should pick this one up. This one was so fast-paced from start to finish. I was intrigued the entire time. It's a trilogy, so it has a second and a third, and I'm very excited to continue in the series. I've had this book on my TBR shelf for years, and I'm so glad that I got around to it. I gave this 4 stars, and I really blew through this one. It was so entertaining, and I wasn't bored at a single chapter. The last book in September that I read is The Fear by Natasha Preston. This one was such a disappointment. I thought my journey, or I was hoping my journey with this author was going to get better, but it's gone downhill, and there's nothing I can do about it. I just need to hop off the ride and go somewhere else for my psychological thriller needs. And long story short, psychological thriller about these teenagers who are getting killed by their most, I guess, feared deaths. The topic is interesting, but it just wasn't executed very well. The characters were immature, they were making bad decisions. I did read this for a Read It or Unhaul episode that I posted last week, so feel free to jump over there to see what other books I picked and to see what other books I unhauled. I gave this 2 stars, which is sad. And if you're looking for a psychological thriller, here's one for you. Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Everyone I recommend this to loves it. Is it the perfect book? No, but it's so entertaining. It's about a husband and wife that on the outside seem to be this perfect couple, but behind closed doors might not be as you expect. And I love this this book. It's not a series, it's a standalone. And I will continue to recommend this to everyone I know. So if you're looking for a psychological thriller, pick this one up. Leave this one at the bookstore. And there we go. That's the end of my September wrap up. I gotta be quick. My camera is about to die. But yep, I had 3 4 stars and 1 2 star. So a pretty good month. And I can't wait to film my next one and keep going with these wrap up videos. If there is anything that you want me to touch on for books in the future, feel free to comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to give me recommendations down below. And my favorite song for September was Write My Name in Your Heart by IVOXYGEN. And I'll go ahead and link that song down below like I did last one. Thanks so much for being here. Bye!